Hi friends, it's Julie, and it is the start of my vlog for reading A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Let's jump into it. The read-along for this starts on the 6th, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this book before I start it, and I was afraid come Friday I was going to jump the gun and forget to do that. My fears and my concerns. I know this makes people cry. I have heard many people, since announcing that I was going to do a buddy read of this, say that I should end this on a day where I don't have anything to do or anybody to see because I'm going to be a mess. I have had people say that the entire way through I'm just going to be a sobbing wreck. I'm going to vlog it for you because I know you guys enjoy seeing me in pain. Also, I'm curious what I'm going to think about the reading experience after all the hype. Despite the fact that I have been incredibly warned about this book, I don't know a single thing about it. I have not read the blurb on the back. I don't know what we're getting into aside from the fact that it is contemporary. I did look up when it was written, and it was written a lot more recently than I thought it had been. I don't know why I thought it was like a modern classic that was like a lot older. It isn't. Published in 2015. This particular book was gifted to me by Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, who is not the first person that I heard reading this book, but definitely the first person that said, hey, you should read it, and sent it to me. I broke this down into as many days as I could and still feel like I wasn't dragging it out too much, but I'm hoping everybody reads at a pace that is comfortable to them, especially because it is a very high emotional pull of a book. I don't know. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I'm also excited that through all the people that I've heard talking about this, I haven't been spoiled for it, and I legitimately don't know what it's about. I know that it is, I believe it follows male main characters. I believe it follows friends. I believe it follows them for a large chunk of their lives, and I know that it also has like abuse in it. But other than that, I don't know. But I didn't want to forget to say thank you for joining me in reading this book. Thank you for recommending it to me. Thank you for warning me that I'm going to be emotionally destroyed. Welcome to the journey. I'm in a good place right now. Like, I feel like I'm in a place where actually having like scheduled this reading, I'm not in a bad place mentally, so I feel like I can read this and be okay. I will see you in a couple days when I actually start reading this. Wish me luck. It is Friday, it's 3:20 in the afternoon, and I actually didn't have work today. After 9 o'clock, I was done. I read a little bit yesterday because I cheated, and I'm only on page 26, so I still have a considerable chunk of the reading to go, and I do want to do editing on my book tonight, which means I need to get this read ASAP. It doesn't read slow, but it certainly doesn't read fast. Right now I'm just trying to get to know all of the characters. I am annotating and tabbing this because I feel like this is going to be one that I keep, so I'm not too worried about that. Right now we have an undetermined time, like I don't know exactly when this is taking place, and also a lot of character names being thrown out, and a lot of ethnicities and sexual preferences and socioeconomic statuses, and I'm just trying to get the lay of the land. It's a lot. So many messages on Instagram, on Twitter of people that are joining in, comments on my video right now. I'm answering on my TBR for March. People that are like, I'm so glad I found this video in time to join you. So I've also had a lot of really amazing messages from people who are just telling me that they're not in the right headspace to read it right now. And I am so happy they're being smart about it and not reading if they don't feel like they can right now, because I know it's not an easy book and I don't want anybody getting hurt because they're forcing themselves to buddy read with me. That's never my goal. The end of day one's reading. I'm not starting day two's just yet because my eyes are going crossed. It is tiny font. It is a lot of words. And one of the things that I really hate in books is just like really long narrative. Like, that's giant chunks of text. A lot of the book is a lot of very chunky text and narrative. I wanted to skim because it really truly irritates me. I don't do well with that kind of writing. Then I would start reading it and realize that there was really beautiful words inside those giant chunks of narrative. I'm struggling right now. I don't feel particularly connected to many of the characters. We got a huge backstory on Willem, and I probably should have cared more than I did. We're also getting, I mean, it's a lot of backstory right now. It's a really dense first chunk of the book because you're just learning so much about all these characters. But I can legitimately say that I hate the way it's written. I think once maybe I care about the characters a little bit more, or when there is actually conversation, I do a little bit better. But also the way that this book is structured, there's dialogue that is sandwiched inside of large paragraphs. So instead of every dialogue kind of being set off to itself, which breaks up the text for the reader's eyes, it's in the giant paragraphs, still within quotations. I don't understand that choice. I don't like that choice. It is very difficult to read for me. Today is Saturday, and it is day 2 of the buddy read, and I'm done today's pages. It's 11 o'clock at night. I literally just got home from work. Page 165 in my version, at least, that I've gotten to. I don't think I had any spoilers in the first part of this, but there's going to be spoilers in this vlog. Like, obviously, I'm talking about the reading vlog. Day 2 was so much easier to read. Like, considerably crazy easier to read. And I'm so glad that it was, because I feel like now I can finally start to get a little bit invested. And I don't know if we're going to follow Willem forever. I don't know if we're going to follow Jude forever. Jude has a serious piece of my heart at this point. His relationship with Willem, his relationship with his doctor, Alex, is that his name? With Harold, with the surrogate father who kind of took him under his wing, is so beautiful and so compassionate and loving, and he's so tragically flawed and just fighting against anybody who wants to be there for him and expecting the worst and expecting them to leave and being surprised every time somebody shows up for him. And it is heartbreaking to see his backstory and to see where he's coming from, and also really beautiful. One of the last things that I read was this passage, which I just highlighted the entire thing. What Annie never understood about him was this: he was an optimist. Every month, every week, he chose to open his eyes to live another day in the world. He did it when he was feeling so awful that sometimes the pain seems to transport him to another state, one in which everything, even the past that he had worked so hard to forget, seemed to fade into gray watercolor wash. He did it when his memories crowded out all other thoughts, when it took real effort, real concentration to tether him to his current life. To keep him from raging with despair and shame, he did it when he was so exhausted of trying, when being awake and alive demanded so much energy that he had to lie in bed thinking of reasons to get up and try again, when it would be so much easier to simply surrender. If that's not depression, if that's, I mean, man. I shed a tear, but I shed a tear, man. It's starting to get there. And I'm hoping that we stick with characters that I'm starting to get to know now, and we don't jump around too much, because we jumped around a lot in day 1. I'm really hoping that we stick with like a central character that I can just really start to like fall for. I'm starting to kind of overlook the formatting of the writing and just fall in with the characters. I'm on day 3's reading, and I think we stopped at page 165. By like 170, 171, like, I mean, even directly after where we stopped last night, it gets so intense with Jude and his backstory and being taken in by these monks or brothers or priests, and the abuse that he suffers is so horrific, and the beginning of his self-harm is so upsetting. I have like another 600 plus pages to read, and I can't imagine how much worse this is going to get. Cool. Okay. I'm on page 208 of my version of the book, which could mean something to you. It could mean nothing to you. I'm doing laundry. It's Sunday afternoon, and I'm definitely crying because poor sweet Jude is just always expecting the worst. He's always expecting people to hurt him and leave him. Even though he is so open and trusting and loving, he always expects that he's going to disappoint somebody, or that they're going to realize he's not worth their time. And Harold and Julia are just sitting down with him and asking him to be their son. Alright, I'm going to go finish reading this, but like, this is tear up number 2. I'm not like sobbing. Man, this is cute. Okay, here I go. Oh, it's so cute. Harold just gave him his father's watch that he passed down to him, And then the guys are there and Willem comes and surprises him. I'm like, look, the tears. Oh man, this kid just needs some good in his life. Listening to the way that he talks about being dirty and disgusting and having done horrible things when he's never done anything horrible. He's just been the victim of horrible things, and talking about the diseases that were given to him during all of these assaults. It's heartbreaking, but then to also hear him say, like, try to confess to Harold things that have happened in his past, and Harold just says, I absolve you, like, you're fine, nothing you can say is going to keep me from caring for you. And he's like, he stole away an opportunity for me to confess and trust that he knew the worst in me so that he would always be there for me. Like, nobody has actually listened to and knows the severity of what he's gone through. He always thinks that people are going to leave him. So by taking away that chance and that opportunity to tell Harold what really had happened to him, kind of took away the opportunity for him to really, truly, fully believe that he was loved, is loved. I think today's reading stops on page 240. I'm on page 232. I'm going to continue. But there's like happy tears. There's like really upsetting, really sad parts that are like really beautifully written and really visceral. But then like it's the happy ones that get me, that make me cry. I got to page 264, which is only marginally into Monday's pages. Whoa man, am I invested in Willem and Jude. JB and like the rest, like I really don't have that big of a connection. But if you'd ask me about Jude or Willem or Andy or Harold and Julia, I'm in. I'm all in. I love them. Could it have been edited down? Oh yeah. Like, does not need to be 800 pages, but it's good. It is Tuesday, March 10th. I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have opinions. Pink is for love and relationship and friendship, and yellow is for just things I want to remember. Orange is for problematic bullshit. A lot of them. Currently a little bit of ahead of where I should be for the day, so I'm on page 410, and I think the reading for the day stopped at 396, so not very much ahead, because the kids were off of school today because of coronavirus. Thank you very much for that. There's a doctor right here in my town that is confirmed positive, and apparently one of the kids at their school went there and there was like exposure, so they had to quarantine the kid and they shut the school down to sanitize it. Right now the school district is planning to close at some point. I don't know. They're reopening tomorrow for a half day, and then Thursday, Friday for half days, which was already scheduled, and then probably letting teachers plan an extended 14-day lesson plan that the kids can take home while they close down in quarantine. This was the chunk of the book where we're dealing with Caleb and Jude's relationship, which is so disturbing and so problematic and so deeply, deeply, deeply heartbreaking. To watch Jude accept the kind of relationship he thinks he deserves, to be punished, to be brutally beaten and raped and violated because he thinks that's the only kind of relationship he deserves, because nobody would want to be with him. Watching Harold try to cope with that and see his son go through something like that. Also dealing with so much anger at Alex and at Willem and at Harold now, who you find out has known about Jude's cutting and found the baggie of razors and confronted him about it. And Alex and Willem, who continue to not force therapy. And I understand it's this fine line and they don't want to push him too far or too hard or push him away. And I know that that's such a real life situation where you want to help somebody, but how far do you push? Because eventually if you push too much, they're going to just walk away and shut you out, and then you won't have them at all. And then they're not going to have anybody, and they'll spiral even worse. But I just want to hug Jude and then wrap him in bubble wrap. I mean, he'll never believe people's words, right? He won't even believe people's actions. He still's just waiting for people to walk away from him. And it's so heartbreaking because you saw him have a backbone, right? Like you saw him with JB finally say, I can't forgive you. I want to forgive you. I can't forgive you. What you did isn't okay. And I can't accept your I'm sorry. I know you're sorry, but I can't forgive you. And he stood up to his friend and he had a backbone about it. And then in so many other situations, he can't do that. I'm not blaming him, but it's hard to read. So at this point, I'm halfway through the book. It's already so tough. Like, I haven't cried in these last portions. Like, I think I've showed you every time I've cried. I've talked to you guys about it because I'm so angry. Like, it's so hard in these instances where you're reading about the graphic abuse that Jude is taking at Caleb's hand. Like, I can't even be sad because I'm so fucking angry. But I will also say there are a lot of instances in this book of fat phobia and fat shaming and repulsion at fat people, which I don't love. I don't love that for this book. Amongst all the other things that we're unpacking, is it the worst thing in the book? No. But it isn't good. Granted, that was also while he was being forced to go down on an obese man because he was like a prostitute, like being prostituted out. The revulsion is more at him being obese than the act of what's going on. I don't know. But that's it for now. Okay, bye. Right now, what's happening? We just got done Harold's letter, which is its own thing. Like, his chapters are really heartbreaking because from like a parental standpoint, to see what Jude's doing is very hard to read. This adult who he trusts and who has been kind to him in a way that nobody else has, is about to betray him in like the worst way possible. Irate about it. Like, I feel like more than being sad, I'm just so angry. I'm gonna call it for the night. I'm legit at a point where I feel like this brother Luke is about to make a turn in the relationship that I'm not ready to deal with right now, because I think he's suggesting going camping together. I don't like where it's going, so I don't want to read it tonight. So real talk, today I finished reading freaking Station 11, which is not the book to be reading during coronavirus. It's just not. I didn't finish my pages yet today for A Little Life. 25 pages shy of finishing today's reading, but I'm also about to jump on and start to do some writing and editing. It's 8 o'clock at night. I anticipate tomorrow I'll be able to catch up, hopefully, maybe, I don't know, or I'll catch up over the weekend. Today's the 11th. It goes to the 15th. I still have more left, and we just got to some serious stuff where we're getting Jude at 8 running away with Brother Luke and the monastery probably looking for them. Brother Luke whoring him out to make money and making pedophiles pay to have sex with him. I'm heartbroken, but I'm so angry on his behalf, like so angry on his behalf. And we have already had him in the shower cutting himself very severely and trying to kill himself. And I don't know what's going to happen then, because we jumped to, you know, another point of view. Look at all those tabs in the first half of the book. Like, can you tell exactly where I stopped? I have confirmation from Chelsea that the anger is natural and that the like emotional distraughtness of it is coming. So thanks for that warning. Everybody's kind of told me that, and I didn't know if I was just too angry to get emotional. I wanted to check in on A Little Life. I am on page 525. I am behind on the reading by a day and a half. So I have a lot to get done. I am hoping to do what I can to read tonight, and I've got the weekend ahead of me, so I am sure I will still finish on time, if not early, depending on how I feel. I've been battling a crazy headache and a really sore throat, and I think it's allergies. I know it's allergies. I'm certain it's allergies, but in my head, I worry and I freak out, and then I make myself worse, and I'm spiraling, and it's been a time in the US and in the world right now. I'm feeling some kind of way, and so that makes reading this book really difficult, because I know that I'm not going to be okay at the end of it, and I just don't know how much I can handle that right now. So yeah, where am I right now? I am currently at Willem and Jude, and they are in a relationship. I believe it's been over 4 months now, and Jude is slowly opening up to him and slowly sharing his past, and I think is just now starting to share what all of his scars are from and everything, but he has not covered Brother Luke, and he has not covered a lot of the sexual violence that has been inflicted on him. Assuming at some point we will get to that, but Willem has been absolutely amazing. We did just get to the part where Jude is confiding in him all of the things that Caleb did to him. Not all of, at this point, just that he was in an abusive relationship and that Caleb has died. And we're going to see where things go from there. I'm going to go read, and I'll touch base later. Okay, bye. This is so sucky. I feel so badly for Jude. I can't believe that he is having this like romantic relationship with Willem, who he loves so much, but the fact that he is still traumatized by sex and is still having a sexual relationship and has told himself that he won't say no to Willem and he'll do whatever he asks because that's what he has to do. It is so upsetting. Such a beautiful healing relationship, but it's also so traumatic for both of them. I didn't get that much further. I got to 585. It's a quick read for as big as it is. I'm sure I could have finished it faster if I actually had time. But being that schools are closed and I'm a nanny, I no longer have a break from work. I have to work straight through. This weekend though, luckily because of coronavirus, I'm not leaving the house. So I got plenty of time to get everything done. We'll figure it all out. Fun fact, it is, well, technically Saturday now because it's after midnight. I've been reading a little bit of this after working a little bit tonight. I'm on page 637, which means I'm officially on track. I have just Saturday and Sunday's pages left. I don't even understand how this child, before the age of 15, had suffered so much abuse. So much abuse. I'm sure it happens out there, and I lead a very privileged life and I've never had to worry about stuff like that. I'm feeling something has happened that I'm not okay with. Yeah, I'm not okay with what's about to happen next. Fuck. I have killed one of my highlighters. It's completely dead, totally dried out. I had to switch colors. I'm not happy about it. I started in blue. I don't know why I went to pink. Purple is like friendship, love, and beautiful writing. Yellow is random stuff. Orange is like super troubling shit. I just stopped marking orange. You can't after a certain point. You just can't. Jude is in surgery to get his legs amputated. What I was upset about last night that I kind of read forward was Willem sleeping with a woman, and apparently post Jude's confession to him about all of his childhood trauma and sexual abuse and how he genuinely is traumatized and upset by and not turned on by sex of any kind. They agreed to not have any. And Willem, sticks to the kind of physical intimacy that Jude is comfortable with, but still has urges. And Jude tells him, you are free to go and sleep with who you want. I just don't want to know about it. A lot of people in open relationships, right? They're in them because they're aware that on a fundamental level, you can't satisfy everything somebody else needs with just one person. They want their partner to be able to go and get that from other people because it's important to them. It's like a grounded belief in knowing that love comes in a ton of different forms and from all different people and in different ways. And that's not where Jude's coming from. Jude's coming from a place of, you can go and do this because I'm broken and I'm not good enough and I can't give you what you need. And I love you. And I know that I have a shortcoming, so you go and do it because you deserve it. And you already sacrificed so much being with me that you don't deserve to have to suffer because of my shortcomings. So you go do what you have to do. And that's not the same thing at all. So that's why I personally am just like heartbroken at that part of it. Again, I'm not crying. I'm not upset. I have put on makeup because I did film. It is the mascara that burns and runs. So I feel like at some point, you're going to see me just a hot damn mess. I know later in the vlog, you guys are going to laugh at me and be like, oh, she had no idea what was coming. It's still going to hit her. It's still going to hit her. It's still going to hit her. And I'm sure it will. I'm sure there'll be an impactful, ending to it. But when you look at something like Beartown or Us Against Them or some of Bachman's books, I sob through multiple parts of those books for the way that this was hyped and the way that this was described as being something that's going to absolutely wreck you. I have no doubt in my mind that the end is going to be absolutely just tragic, horrific. It's going to break my heart and it's going to leave me crying. I really thought it was going to be more of a prolonged thing, more scattered throughout here. And it hasn't been that way. I haven't gotten like that. I also feel like there might be a twist to this is the same twist that's in One Day by David Nichols. I feel like the most impactful ending for this would be that kind of a twist. And I don't know if it's going to happen. And I wouldn't tell you maybe even if it did, because I don't want to spoil anything for that book. But I have a feeling coming down the home stretch here. And honestly, I'm kind of ready to be done. Not that I'm not enjoying it, but like, I've been reading it for what, 9 days? Like, it feels, I don't think I've taken 9 days to read a book in a very long time. My particular version of this book has 816 pages. I'm currently on page 736. And the tears have started. I already feel kind of sick. And now I'm crying on top of it, which I knew was going to happen, but like, I need to move past this book, so I need to like let the pain happen so I can start to move on. All I will say is I was right in my assumption about what I thought was going to happen. I mean, I did see it coming, so I'm not like caught off guard. It's just still heartbreaking. It's not easy to like watch somebody lose something that they love. The people that you love that leave you behind when they go somewhere else leave you with this like catalog of memories, right? You cling to whatever gives you a sense of that person. Realizing how much time has passed since the beginning of the book and how long we followed Jude, and he's just turning what, 51, I think, at this point. Yeah, it's his birthday. He's 51. And Willem's been dead for 8 months now. I know a lot of people have said it's like torture porn and it is unnecessarily sad and unnecessarily dramatic. It's one character, right? And it's one character with like the shittiest backstory ever, but you can't unpack that in like one chunk and then just move on. It doesn't stay behind you. So I think that it's valid in its portrayal and the prolonged exposure to the kinds of horrors that he went through, his injuries and his diseases, and the way that his life has progressed and the way that he's made a success out of himself is, as Willem has described it many times, a miracle. You expect something horrible to happen to him. You expect for one of the times that he cuts, or one of the times he hurts himself, or one of the times he gets an infection to be the last. You expect for him to die. So for people to react the way they do to the ending of this book, you can assume that what you expect is not going to be what you get. You know there's going to be a twist in there somewhere. So I am unsurprised that Willem died. Wholly unsurprised. Like, I knew that was going to have to be one of the things that gets you at the end of this book. And it does. Like, it's sucky. The hardest thing is watching Jude try to move on after like the only person who ever knew everything about him and still loved him so unconditionally is gone. Because Jude deserved that. I don't think this is the punch everybody talks about, because a lot of people seem to be like really devastated right at the very end. All right, let's go finish this book. I'll be back. I didn't even realize I caught the page with one of my tears. But at what point do you just say you need to highlight an entire book? Like, do you see how much of that is highlighted? Jude is trying so desperately to kill himself. Harold is so loving and so amazing, and he's throwing this tantrum and he doesn't want to eat and he's screaming that he's going to kill himself no matter what anybody wants, and can you just leave me alone and stop? I don't want your help. And Harold comes over and hugs him, and Julia hugs him, and they just don't let him go, and they let him rage and throw a tantrum and be hurt. This passage is just like, okay, god damn it, my eyes hurt. He cries for everything he has been, for everything he might have been, for every old hurt, for every old happiness. He cries for shame and joy of finally getting to be a child with all the child's whims and wants and insecurities, for the privilege of behaving badly and being forgiven, for the luxury of tenderness, of fondness, for being served a meal and made to eat it, for the ability at last, of believing a parent's reassurances, of believing that to someone he is special despite all his mistakes and hatefulness, because of all of his mistakes and hatefulness. I'm done. I don't know. I mean, I'm not inconsolable. I'm not still crying. I don't feel like I'm going to continue to cry. I guess I don't understand why you would be so surprised by the ending. He wasn't cured. He wasn't magically okay. He was still suicidal. He was very clearly on page still suicidal after Willem's death. He was able to share the worst of himself, the worst of himself with Willem, and find a little bit of peace in knowing that Willem didn't leave. And I think he would have found more of that if he had shared with Julia and Harold before he died. And the friendships and the healing and like the power of love and acceptance, and also a parent's love for a child, and how all different ways children come to you. Guys, you know I'm a crier. Like, I'm a full-blown crier. But I'm not shattered right now. Like, I knew you couldn't just have a straightforward book and only Jude dies. But I also knew you couldn't have a book where Jude self-harms and attempts suicide as many times as he does and not actually have him commit suicide. Right? It's a really tough read. I mean, obviously I'm crying. I'm not like immune to the fact that it's emotional. I feel like there's a very big part of me that doesn't understand how the fuck the book ended. Like, call me crazy. Feel free to explain it to me in the comments if you've read it. Then we were only standing there looking up at a red brick building, and I was pretending that I had never had to fear for him and that he was letting me pretend this. That all the dangerous things he could have done, all the ways he could have broken my heart were in the past. The stuff of stories that the time that lay behind us was scary, but the time that lay ahead of us was not. And then he's like, you jumped off a roof. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't understand the ending. I don't know why that was like the last words or like the last image of a book like that. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Had the book just left off on him wondering aloud years later if Jude was happy with him, yeah, that I would get emotional at, right? Like, if it just leaves with an 84-year-old man wondering if his son was happy with him, that would have been really emotional. I think that would have broken me. Thankful for everybody who buddy read it with me, because it did help knowing that I wasn't alone and I could reach out to people if I needed to. So that was that. That was that reading. Is it a 5-star book? Like, is it really wrong if I don't give it 5 stars? Because I feel like at the end of the day, it could have been so much shorter. I still don't love the blocky writing. I really, truly hate the way the book is formatted. Way too fucking long. There's just giant chunks of this where I'm like, I don't fucking care. Hair sculptures never played back into it. Like, this whole artist colony never really played back into it. Like, we know the characters, we know their names, but there was so much detail put into some of the character building in the beginning, and then really those people are not super prevalent throughout. I don't love the way it ended, and I do think it was pretty predictable. Can I give it 4 stars? I think it's a 4-star book. Someone give it 4 stars. Holy shit. Oh, you guys are gonna come for me. But I don't know. It's 4 stars for this one. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I buddy read it. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad it's off my TBR. I'm glad I finally got to it. I'm glad I stayed so spoiler free for it too. That's it for this, dude. I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna go wash my goddamn face. Quick clip from me after I've wiped off my makeup, just to kind of gather some thoughts and make sure that I had succinctly put everything into words, and I had forgotten a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One of the other reasons that I do think this is not a 5-star read for me is because, like I mentioned earlier in the vlog, there is a lot of fat shaming that occurs early in the book. It doesn't occur as much towards the end. I think the true hardest part of this was Jude not being able to see in himself what others did, not being able to forgive himself, not being able to move past a lot of what happened to him, which is understandable, but hard to read. And watching the people around him question whether or not they were good for him, or whether or not they were good enough to him, whether or not he knew that they loved him. That was the part that was emotional for me, because there was no way to get through to Jude that he was loved and he was accepted. And I think that at a certain point as a reader, you need to accept that you can do your absolute best, and he's still, because of his past trauma, never going to fully buy into that. But to watch people who love him so wholly and so completely question the effectiveness of their love on him because of his actions, because of his continued cutting, because of his eventual suicide, watching Harold torture himself about whether or not he felt safe and loved with him. That's the things that get to me. I also think that a lot of the small nuances of Jude and Willem's relationship and the love that they have for each other and their daily in and out was so sweet and so tender and so caring. Also so codependent and so troubling at times. Like, there's no part of this that is just wholly good or wholly bad. Overall, it was not what I was expecting, And while I can appreciate it for what it was, and I can even appreciate and 5-star some of the aspects of it that I wasn't anticipating, in the end, it still is far from a 5-star book for me. I wanted to make sure that I really kind of tried to articulate as much as possible the fact that I found the most beauty in the nuances of the relationships of people outside of Jude and their relationship in view of not Jude, because I don't think anybody thought he was a bad person, but of them questioning whether or not he ever really knew how much he was loved. Did I love them hard enough? Did I love them well enough? Especially after they continue self-harm or they do succeed in suicide. Did I not love hard enough? Did I not make it clear enough that I loved him? That is heartbreaking for me. That was the hardest part for me personally. That's my takeaway. Back to other Julie. Okay, bye. Thank you for joining me for the reading vlog. That is it for right now. If you guys liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up. Let me know in a comment down below what I missed about that ending or just any of your other thoughts as you watch this as I read through. I'd love to talk to you about it. We can discuss the book all you want. So I will talk to you down in the comments. That's it for now. I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye, guys.